Welcome back to the team room. Before we dive into today's briefing, let me bring the new arrivals up to speed. I am a retired Special Operations Officer. I spent over 2 decades operating in the shadows for the United States military, doing the quiet, heavy lifting in places that don't officially exist on any public map. Because of the nature of that work and the non-disclosure agreements I signed in windowless rooms at the Pentagon, my face remains off camera and my name stays off the internet. The military gave me a profound sense of purpose, but it also took a massive toll. I left pieces of myself across multiple continents. My joints are worn down to the bone, my hearing is shot, and the VA disability check I get every month is a grim reminder of that physical debt. But I am not here to complain, and I am certainly not here to ask for your charity. I was raised to lead and to work for what I have. I built this channel to establish a fair trade. I provide you with the unfiltered, highly classified reality of modern warfare, the psychology of elite training, and the tactical truths you will never hear from a recruiter. In exchange, I ask for your time and your engagement. Hitting the subscribe button and leaving a like costs you nothing, but it tells the algorithm that my mission here matters. It keeps me independent, and it allows me to keep bringing you into this world. If you can respect that trade, then lock and load. We have a lot of accounting to do today. How much is a human life worth? To a philosopher, it is priceless. To a mother, it is everything. But to the Department of Defense, a human life has a very specific, quantifiable price tag. When you see a Navy SEAL emerge from the ocean, or a Green Beret patrolling through a hostile jungle, or an Army Ranger fast-roping onto a rooftop, you are not just looking at a warrior. You are looking at a walking, breathing, multi-million-dollar investment. You are looking at the most expensive piece of military hardware on the battlefield. You can buy an F-35 fighter jet with a check, but you cannot buy a Tier 1 operator. You have to build him. And building him is a bureaucratic, logistical, and financial nightmare. In this tactical breakdown, we are going to open the Pentagon's ledger. We are going to calculate the true cost of survival. We will deconstruct the financial mechanics behind Marine Corps boot camp, the staggering attrition costs of Bud S and Ranger School, the aviation fuel burned during halo jumps, and the psychological investments of SERE training. By the end of this video, you will understand why it costs over $1 million to produce a single special operator, and why the military considers it a bargain. Let us start at the bottom of the ledger. Phase 1, the mass production of the recruit. When a civilian steps off the bus at Marine Corps boot camp or Army basic training, the financial investment is relatively low. The military is using the Henry Ford model of mass production. Volume over precision. The goal is to take 100,000 civilians a year and teach them how to march, how to shoot, and how to follow orders. The costs here are basic logistics. Food, uniforms, boots, standard-issue M4 carbines, and the salaries of the drill instructors. We are talking about $50,000 to $80,000 per recruit to get them through basic training and their initial infantry school. They sleep in open squad bays. They eat mass-produced food in the chow hall. They run on asphalt and crawl under cheap barbed wire. The obstacle courses are made of simple wooden beams, ropes, and cargo nets. It is brutal, it is loud, and it is highly efficient. But an infantryman, as vital as he is still a conventional asset. He is designed to fight in large formations. When the military needs a scalpel instead of a sledgehammer, the price tag begins to skyrocket. Welcome to Phase 2, the economics of attrition. This is where you find the legendary selection courses. Basic underwater demolition, SEAL training, Ranger assessment and selection, and the Special Forces qualification course. This is where the budget stops being about what you provide to the soldier and starts being about the soldiers you throw away. Let me explain the math of attrition. In Bud S, the failure rate is roughly 80%. In some classes, it is higher. That means if you start with 200 candidates, you might graduate 40. But the Navy still had to pay, house, feed, and medically treat all 200 men for the weeks or months they were there before they rang the bell. When a candidate quits during Hell Week, the money spent on him doesn't magically return to the Treasury. It is a sunk cost. Therefore, the actual cost of producing one graduated Navy SEAL must absorb the financial loss of the 4 guys who quit. You are paying for failures to find the success. And the logistics of these selection courses are not cheap. Take water survival and the maritime phases. You aren't just paying for the candidates. You are paying for the safety divers. You are paying for the Zodiac inflatable boats, the outboard motors, and the constant maintenance required because salt water destroys everything it touches. You are paying for the medical staff who stand by 24/7 to treat hypothermia, pneumonia, and near drownings. When you see a guy balancing on a wooden beam with a backpack on an obstacle course, it looks simple. But that course has to be maintained, insured, and monitored. When you put a class of rangers into the swamps of Florida, you have to establish a massive logistical footprint in the middle of nowhere. You need trucks to haul ammunition, blank rounds, artillery simulators, and rations. You need medevac helicopters on standby, burning fuel on the tarmac, just in case a student gets bitten by a cottonmouth snake or breaks a femur. The safety net surrounding the suffering is wildly expensive. Phase 3, the specialized environments. Once an operator passes selection, they are still not ready for combat. They are just ready to learn. And learning requires sending them to the most hostile environments on Earth to see if their equipment and their minds hold up. Take the Jungle Warfare Training Center. The jungle is a nightmare for logistics. When the military sends a unit to Okinawa or the deep forests of Central America, the transportation costs alone are staggering. Moving a battalion of men and their gear across the ocean requires C-17 Globemaster transport planes, which cost over $20,000 an hour to fly. Once in the jungle, the environment actively eats the budget. The humidity destroys electronics, night vision goggles short out, radios fail, uniforms rot off the bodies of the operators, boots fall apart. The military has to constantly replace this high-end gear. Furthermore, the diseases in the jungle require extensive medical prophylaxis. Malaria pills, specialized vaccines, and constant medical monitoring. You are spending hundreds of thousands of dollars just to teach a man how to disappear in the foliage and track an enemy through the mud without dying of an infection. Then we enter Phase 4, the vertical axis, airborne and aviation operations. If you want to understand where the defense budget goes, look up. Aviation fuel is the lifeblood of special operations, and it burns money faster than anything else on the planet. Let us look at fast rope insertion. You see the footage of operators sliding down a thick rope onto a target. It is fast, aggressive, and highly effective. But to practice that one skill, you need a helicopter. A A-60 Blackhawk costs around $4,000 an hour to operate. An MH-47 Chinook costs even more. To teach a squad of Rangers how to fast rope, that helicopter has to hover at 90 feet. Hovering is the most fuel-intensive and mechanically stressful maneuver a helicopter can perform. The engines are screaming, the rotor blades are beating the air, and the mechanics are working overtime to maintain the aircraft. Every time a soldier slides down that rope, it costs the taxpayers hundreds of dollars in fuel and maintenance hours alone. But fast roping is cheap compared to the apex of military insertion, the halo jump, high altitude, low opening. To perform a halo jump, you need a pressurized aircraft. You fly to 30,000 feet. The oxygen is so thin up there that a human will lose consciousness in seconds. So the military has to equip every jumper with a specialized oxygen console, a bailout bottle, and a mask that costs thousands of dollars. The parachutes themselves are not your standard round canopies. They are highly advanced, steerable ram air reserves that require certified riggers to pack and maintain. The operators must breathe pure oxygen for an hour before the jump just to purge the nitrogen from their blood. Otherwise, they will suffer from decompression sickness, the bends, at that altitude. The cost of running the aircraft, supplying the medical-grade oxygen, outfitting the jumpers with thermal suits to survive the 40 below zero temperatures, and maintaining the drop zone is astronomical. A single halo training exercise for an operational detachment can cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. All of this to teach a man how to fall through the dark and land on a target the size of a postage stamp. Phase 5, the architecture of the mind, SERE School. You can spend $1 million teaching a man how to shoot, dive, and jump, but if he breaks under interrogation, that entire investment becomes a liability. The enemy doesn't just kill captured operators, they exploit them for propaganda and intelligence. To prevent this, the military built SERE: survival, evasion, resistance, and escape. SERE is the most psychologically expensive school in the military. The physical costs are one thing, dropping guys in the woods to eat bugs and build shelters. But the resistance phase requires a completely different infrastructure. The military literally built mock prisoner-of-war camps. These camps are staffed by highly trained interrogators, role players, and psychologists. The interrogators are not just acting, they are utilizing scientifically proven methods of psychological manipulation, sleep deprivation, and stress positions. They have to push the operator to the absolute edge of their sanity without doing permanent physical damage. To run this kind of psychological gauntlet safely, the military employs a massive team of behavioral scientists, doctors, and monitors who watch the candidates through hidden cameras. They monitor heart rates, stress levels, and cognitive decline. You are paying the salaries of PhD-level psychologists to ensure that the torture is just realistic enough to prepare the operator, but not so harsh that it destroys him. The overhead to run a facility that simulates a war crime is staggering. So let us look at the final ledger. When you take the basic training, the pipeline attrition, the specialized dive and jungle schools, the aviation fuel for halo and fast rope, the advanced medical trauma courses, the language schools, and the psychological conditioning of SERE, the math becomes clear. By the time a Green Beret, a Navy SEAL, or a Ranger puts on their respective headgear and checks into their team room, the United States government has invested between $1 and $2 million into their existence. And that is before you issue them their $40,000 panoramic night vision goggles, their $15,000 customized rifle, and their body armor. They are walking arsenals. They are PhDs of violence. But there is a final hidden cost. A cost that doesn't show up on the Pentagon's budget sheets, but it is paid every single day in living rooms and hospitals across the country. It is the cost paid by the operator himself. The human body is not designed to carry a 100-pound rucksack for 20 years. It is not designed to absorb the concussive shockwave of a breaching charge exploding 100 times a year. It is not designed to hit the water at 30 miles an hour or land hard under a parachute in the dark. By the time these million-dollar assets retire, the warranty is completely voided. The traumatic brain injuries from the explosive breaching change their personalities. The sleep deprivation causes chronic insomnia and endocrine failure. The operational tempo, deploying for 300 days a year, destroys marriages. The divorce rate in the special operations community is staggering. Kids grow up with fathers who are technically alive but are ghosts in their own homes. The government pays millions to build the operator, but the Department of Veterans Affairs spends billions trying to put them back together when the war is over. And some pieces just don't fit back the way they used to. I know this because I am one of those line items on the VA budget. I look at my brothers, the ones who made it back, and I see the limps. I see the 1,000-yard stares when a car backfires. I see the silence when someone asks them what they did in the war. We paid the hidden cost. We paid the balance that the Pentagon couldn't cover, and we did it willingly. Because someone has to stand in the dark, someone has to jump from the plane, someone has to walk point in the jungle. So the next time